Hi, and welcome to Gaston Spotlight. I'm Nick Black. Today's topic is the You Only Live Once generation, Millennials. On our show today, we would like to welcome Janna Smith and John Hoyle of Carolina Asset Management.
Thanks for having us.
Thanks for having us.
Thanks for being here. They're here to talk about how millennials and college students can manage their money better. So, what's the primary mistake you see with people making, the mistakes that they make with money?
Yeah, especially students, millennials in general. It was a generation that was kind of overlooked on the financial education. In high school or getting into college, none of these things are really talked about. The number one thing that we do see is that they just don't know what the options are out there. They think that money is managed in a savings account or a checking account, and we all know that that's not the way to get to retirement or any type of planning or to buy a home.
As far as like student loan debt goes, should you take out loans or find like cheaper schooling alternatives? What do y'all think?
So there's a number of ways that it could be done. The traditional ways are through loans, grants, Pell Grants, and so forth. The best thing, I think, is not only for students, but for parents to be more educated on the vehicles that are out there. If you can start saving at a young age, it's relatively very inexpensive. It can accomplish not only saving for school, but retirement and so forth.
Yeah.
So there's really, tax-wise, really more efficient ways to do things. But the issue is most people don't think about it till it's time to accomplish school or retirement. Yeah. So just
The preparation isn't there.
So just having that financial literacy and making those things more available to the public is much better.
Financial literacy.
Yeah.
I've never heard someone say that, but I guess that's true. To know like all the different sides and the ways to balance things, and also people do wait. They wait to start things way too late, and they say that I'm going to do this once I get this thing figured out. And sometimes it's better to just start and build
right away. Yeah.
Build it from the start, and
and
it adds up over time.
That's exactly right. Compound interest is your best friend.
Yeah.
Dealing with any kind of savings or investment vehicle, of course.
Yeah, absolutely. And if you do have student loans, what can you do like to reduce the debt that comes along with that?
So there's several different ways to organize it, right? So if you're overbalanced student loans, of course, there are programs out there that'll let you make payments. You can consolidate loans, or you could do what's called optimizing your debt, right? So we use a lot of debt optimization strategies with our firm, which basically it's not necessarily consolidating them, right? But it's helping you pay off loans, credit card debt, student loans, but it's paying them off in such a way where the largest interest rates are being paid first, not necessarily the biggest balance, but you're knocking those biggest interest rates off because it's going to help your credit score more along the way.
And knowing the difference between a subsidized and unsubsidized loan, I think, is usually where you see the biggest deficit.
So unsubsidized and subsidized, is that what you said?
Yeah, so unsubsidized basically means your interest rate can change at any given time. Your subsidized means that they're fixed and your interest rate won't change. So paying off variable loans is usually the best way to go in that situation.
But you want it to be subsidized?
Yes.
So that it stays fixed and doesn't
Correct.
vary, but I bet most of them are probably unsubsidized.
There's usually a blend.
Yeah.
Yeah, there's usually multiple loans inside of student loans. The best way to plan for college, in my opinion, is to have a plan. Basically, just figure out your path, stick to it, make sure you're working, paying a lot of it while you're in school because you're going to be getting interest and all these things building. If you can keep your balances low, you're going to see that it's a lot easier to pay off that debt in the end.
Okay, cool. A lot of us are about to graduate. What do you think some things that we could just think about as we move like into the workforce and start, like what should we be thinking about like at this time to prepare?
At this time, as far as money goes, understanding what your options are out there. So once you get your paycheck, where does the money go? It shouldn't go straight to the local restaurant. It shouldn't go straight to the local clothing store. It should go into some type of planning strategy. And as long as you're aware of those, I mean, a couple dollars here and a couple dollars there is going to grow over time.
Yeah.
Versus whether you do nothing and you're playing catch up later down the road. The other thing as far as getting a job, networking is your lifeline. Nobody gets a job from getting an application through monster.com. It's more of who you know, how you're getting out there and getting real world experience, and you actually get that through financial planning as well because you're exposed to different people through the process. So that really does help.
So, and how much money do you think we should set aside, like, to start building that? Is there a percentage that you?
So rule of thumb, right? So if you go into a job, you're going to have 401k savings, right? Most of the time. So my rule on that, because I manage a lot of 401k plans, at least 3% there. But realistically, you want to put back 15 to 20%. You want to get to a point where you can do that, which is very difficult starting out, right? So it's about looking, what are my living expenses? Try to shave off 3 to 5% starting out, you know, and finding the different vehicles to put that into, whether it be a savings account, a brokerage account, an emergency fund. Those are going to be the things that you want to start before you actually come up with an investment strategy.
Basically, that 3 to 5% is going to get you the ability to have good habits, good saving habits. And once those habits are formed, you look at money differently. So
Yeah,
instead of getting your paycheck and being like, oh, I'm going to go buy something cool, it's, oh, I'm going to turn this into some more money.
Yeah,
So it's changing that mentality
Exactly.
and knowing that savings and checking accounts, they give you that one little penny and that's it. We don't need to be living paycheck to paycheck.
Yeah, I feel that. I've definitely, well, when I first started working, I was working jobs that were bi-weekly, and I was like, this is terrible. And then I was like, okay, I need to get that weekly paycheck, and I started doing that, and I was like, this still kind of sucks. So I've been serving. I'm a server now. I used to work in the kitchen. I kind of moved into different positions in the restaurant, and now I serve, and I think it's a lot better because I
Instant
get
gratification.
cash in my hand every day. It's almost like I'm running myself like a business, and I've been seeing it that way, and all I do is talk to people, and they're just like,
That actually will help you build your network too. If you're good at your job in the service industry, you'll get exposed to a lot of people. And I came from the service industry. I actually worked in restaurants all through college to help pay for it.
Yeah.
And because of that, I actually had my network, and that's how I came to this firm. But in addition to that, I kick myself daily that I didn't shave off a percentage of my tips and do something with it. Because I could have had so much more going for me, so many more opportunities had I known that there were other vehicles out there that could have made me more money while I was still waiting tables or while I was still working in the restaurant industry.
yeah. Have y'all heard of the 80-20 rule?
Yep.
Like, I think it goes with money, you know, saving 20% but then investing 80% or something like that. Or
So the demographics have changed a lot, right? So, but really, this generation is going to, it's good. So when I got out of school, right, and when I got into the workforce, when I got in this career in 2008, it was kind of rough because it was 2008. The market had bottomed out. But there's an opportunity here because of the recent tax changes, right? So people are going to be getting more on their paychecks. So you can figure out where to allocate those dollars now. So things are going, I have a real good feeling that it's going to be much easier. And before the cameras on, you and I were talking about, you know, population increase. Even though there's more people, you have to be more competitive, but there's also more opportunity for different types of jobs, right? And again, with those tax savings, you should be able to implement a plan fairly easy. So it's not necessarily 80-20 for everybody. There's not a cookie cutter strategy. It's just about finding, you know, sitting down with somebody. And if you can't talk to an advisor like us, you know, doing your research, saying, hey, you know, what's going to be the best option for me? What tools are out there for me to be able to satisfy my savings and investing needs? Because they're not the same. Saving and investing are two totally different things.
so what's the best way to boost your credit score and save money
Free tool,
at the same
Credit
time?
Karma.
Credit Karma.
Credit Karma, man. It's awesome. I've even started using it myself, and I am a financial advisor, right? So it really shows you not only the way it grades you, it's pretty close to Experian and some of the other credit agencies. So they use kind of like their scoring system. But it's really cool because it shows you areas where you can reduce your interest rates, right? So if, let's say you've got like a credit card, like Capital One, and you might have like a 20% interest rate. It'll say, hey, we think you're paying too much. We're going to suggest you put everything into this card, and it might have like a 6% interest rate. So it helps you build your credit as a free tool.
Addition to that, knowing how credit is made, I think, is probably the biggest downside of this generation. They just don't know. They just think, oh, you get a score for being good with your money or buying things, right? So your credit score is actually compiled of a number of things. One would be how old your credit is. So if you have a store credit card or a credit card that you've had for many years, don't cut it up. keep it going, put your gas on it and pay it, because they want to see how old your credit is. And if you get new cards all the time, it starts that over. They also want to see bills in your name and that they're paid on time. If you're not paying them on time, you'll see even on that app, it'll say how many number of payments have been paid on time. So getting bills in your name, being a good steward of keeping up with those things, understanding that due dates are important and collections will kill you. So when it comes down to it, I mean, this generation is going into a huge hurdle of not being able to buy houses until they're in their 30s, late 30s, even 40s, because of a couple different obstacles. One, they go to college, they accumulate a lot of debt, they get into the workforce, they have lower pay, they don't know what to do with the paycheck, nor do they know how to get out from underneath the debt, and they're having to maintain credit. I mean, that's a lot of juggling balls. So if you understand the reasoning behind credit cards and why you need to keep them and make your payments on time and don't max them out, and then kind of put that in your little basket of financial knowledge, you can buy a house much quicker, because we're monitoring that, we're understanding how it's made, and we're staying on the right path for that.
Yeah, you just really have to be careful with where you spend your money and how you spend your money.
Absolutely.
And keeping up with payments, and know the financial literacy and the credit score, and
Absolutely.
those different sides of it. Because I didn't know that. I just thought it was a grade, like you said. Yeah, just a random number.
Nope.
And I'm like getting graded on everything already. So
my first credit card was a Victoria's Secret card when I had turned 18, and I still have it. I probably use it maybe once a year, but it's just to keep it active and keep it going, because it's my longest credit card that I've held. So that gives my credit history a great track record, and also helps maintain my score.
And knowing how to dispute things too. Because
Absolutely.
I've had things on my
Absolutely.
credit card where I didn't purchase them, right? So I have had my identity broken too. So security, number one. But knowing how to dispute things too with the credit agencies. Credit Karma is a great tool for that too, because you press a button. If you see something that's not right in your credit report, you can dispute it.
Yep.
You have the legal right to do that. So it's a little bit of a process, but that's very helpful to know too.
yeah, there's definitely like a level of awareness that you have to have too, as far as like just knowing all the payments you have and having it all laid out and keeping up with things. And like you said, you have to be able to dispute if you think something went wrong with one of your accounts or something.
Right. But to be able to dispute,
Which,
you have to pay attention and see it.
A lot of
Right?
attention, because they know the ins and outs of their software and stuff. And if something goes wrong, like I've went to the bank when something went wrong, and they're just like telling me that it didn't happen, like a transaction like disappeared completely.
Yeah.
And I'm like, but it was right here. And they're like, no. I'm like, it's right here.
I'm old school, man. I still use spreadsheets to keep up with my personal budget, and so just getting on Excel or keeping a book, right? So I keep a bill book too, still. So I write everything down. I keep a check log. If I have to write checks, I don't. It's 2018, so I'm not writing too many checks. I'm doing a lot of direct deposit or automatic drafts, but just making sure that you have a system, right, to keep everything organized, and that's the most important first step with everything.
Okay, cool. Is there a right time to start saving for retirement, or is any time?
Actually, as an adult, I think the best time is to start as soon as you start getting a paycheck, to be honest with you. As a parent, I think it is your responsibility to instill financial literacy and education in your children very early. I have 4-year-old twins, and I've already started their planning. They have accounts set up for them for certain things, one for college, one for investments. So my 4-year-olds are already, somewhat attached to some type of planning. And I feel like, it's our responsibility, if we weren't educated on it, to seek that education and know that putting money in a savings account is not necessarily efficient. It just means you're going to spend it quickly, right? Because it's available to you. So if you're putting money away and you're making money on your money, you're going to get better habits, because you see gains, you see your increase in balance, and when it's time to buy a house, you have the down payment. And you didn't have to save dollar for dollar. So understanding that savings is very important. I guess savings is kind of like a taboo, if you will. People usually hate it when we say, you gotta save more money. But we're not necessarily saying save, we're saying let's make some more money. So once that switch kind of flips in someone's head and they realize, oh, I'm not just putting money in a savings account, I'm actually potentially going to make more money, they get excited about that. So get excited about saving. It's very nerdy to say, but it is very exciting once you start doing it. You go to buy a shirt and you're like, oh, that's $20. Maybe I could make $25 if I didn't buy this shirt. So kind of knowing that there's a different thought
And just
process
keep
behind
letting it-
saving. Absolutely.
Keep letting it build up.
Yeah.
Cool. Thank you. So let's move on to car purchasing.
Okay.
Should we lease or buy cars in this world we
Well,
live in?
I mean, it really depends, right? So, leasing, I think, can be a good thing because you get a new car every time you turn it back in. I think it's a little better on your credit, you know. A car is the biggest appreciating asset you can have. I mean, it's going to lose value as soon as you take it off the lot. So, and of course, people who sell cars want to sell you a car. So, but you know, it just depends on your personal situation, really. I mean, there's no right or wrong answer to that, but I do think leasing can be more advantageous towards your credit in the long run.
Towards the building.
Yeah.
Yeah, in some leases, they'll allow you to, like, your maintenance is included. So it might
Yeah.
save you a little bit
That's
on
right.
different types of fees, like, you know, tires or brakes or things like that. You still have to maintain oil changes. But when it comes down to it, if you are a road hog and you drive all
Yeah.
over the place
Then
and
you
you
have to
go
buy it.
above your limit, no, you're basically buying that car, but never going to be able to keep it
That's right.
because it's so expensive if you go over your mileage. So if you don't drive a lot, you don't have a lot of bills, you don't really, you know, have to worry about maintenance, then leasing would be a good option. But buying, you know, if you're driving all over town, you work in Charlotte and live in Dallas or Cherryville, you don't need to lease a car.
Yeah.
You'll get stuck.
You'll get stuck.
You'll get stuck in the car.
Because why?
So basically, when you turn in a lease, if you've gone over the
mileage.
mileage, they charge you, was it 10, sometimes 15 cents every mile that you've gone over. So you can get there and get 100,000 miles over, 200,000 miles over what you were supposed to or allowed to, and they charge you every mile when you turn it in.
This is just specific places that where you lease cars, like
It's usually a rule of
buy
thumb.
here, pay here type place.
Buy here, pay here usually are used cars. They're usually not new cars. Leases are usually brand new cars.
What's a good payment? I guess like when I was looking for my car, I was like, I don't want to pay over $300. You know, I'm still a student. You know,
Right.
so I found it, and it's like $246 or something like that, which I don't think that's that bad.
That's not too bad, but you also got to think everything is relative.
Yeah.
So if you don't have a job and you're making a $300 car payment, probably not the best, you know,
Yeah.
investment.
Yeah.
So looking at where your money's going and actually going off a budget and knowing what your max is, what you're willing to pay, and if you don't have the money to spend on any type of maintenance or anything like that, a lease might be an option. Because you actually might pay less and you don't have to worry about the maintenance of it. But like I said, if you drive a lot, absolutely not. Absolutely not. You'll get stuck.
A lot of us are still being supported by our parents while we're in college. Do you think there's an age limit where, you know, like, should I be in my 30s still living with my parents,
No.
paying for college?
And here's the thing too. So we still have the Affordable Care Act in place, right? You're going to fall off your parents' insurance at age 26 if you're going to stay on that long. Yeah. So at that point, you got to start having some, you know, if you don't want to pay the cost of insurance, especially in North Carolina right now, you know, you need to find a job that's willing to give you some benefits. So no, I mean, me personally, I was out as soon as I could be, you know, in doing this. And I did have to go back a few times, right? Because this business we're in is very competitive. It's very hard.
Right.
But I think, again, it all goes back to staying organized and mapping out, hey, you know, what can I afford for rent? And if my parents are going to help me out with tuition, you know, is that going to be a big help? But getting real world experience, being on your own as soon as possible, you know, that's always good.
It helps you grow up a little bit too.
Absolutely.
Yeah. I mean,
Yeah.
my first apartment, I was 18 years old. Actually, I was 17. I wasn't allowed to sign the lease yet, so I had to wait a couple months for my birthday. But I had a couple roommates, and that's usually the way it goes. You can't ever afford your own place. Everyone dreams of having a studio apartment with exposed ductwork. That's not life. Sorry. Getting roommates, usually living in houses are cheaper. So if you're wanting to move out on your own, you know, you'll have multiple bedrooms. You're not paying, you know, for the pool and all that stuff. But living in a modest house with roommates is usually more cost effective. And then again, I hate to be the bearer of bad news, but I mean, your parents got you so far, you know, and they have to start planning for themselves at some point to make sure that they can have retirement and their household expenses go down and
Yeah.
things like that. So kind of alleviating that burden from our parents is a little bit of our responsibility too, because
It is.
we need to know when to stop. So
Yeah.
and to start taking responsibility.
I don't want to stop.
It feels good, right? But it feels a lot better when you start realizing that when you buy a home, that's got a cash account inside of it. So you're making money by owning a home.
You have equity.
You have equity, yeah.
Yeah.
So instead of just having a checking account, living in your parents' house, now you've started to build this amazing life for yourself. And it's amazing. And parents are always going to be supportive. If they're supporting you inside their house, they'll support you outside as well.
It just feels good to be on your own and have the responsibility and be able to manage it. And
Yeah.
it makes
absolutely.
you feel like a grown up, you know. And
You're adulting hard at that point.
yeah. Hashtag adulting. So, do you have any tips for saving money?
I've got a couple. So I think, to be honest with you, getting good spending habits, every time you get a paycheck or every time you come into contact with money, you need to be shaving off a little bit. There are certain things that you need to plan for first, like emergency funds are always number one. So in the event that something were to go wrong, you were to get injured, couldn't bring in an income, you're able to stay on your own 2 feet for at least 3 months. Then from there, it's understanding what type of accounts are out there and what things you can actually put money into. That doesn't necessarily tie your money up, but it helps it grow. So that's mine.
Set a goal for yourself every week. So say, hey, I'm going to shave off percentages or dollars. I'm going to put $20 back this week, $40
Yeah.
back the next week. All right. Keep an envelope, then at the end of every month or whatever, take it to your savings account or whatever, so that you're at least getting interest on it. Right. A lot of people save cash, but you're not getting anything for that cash.
Nope.
You know, it's just kind of sitting there, not doing anything. So again, I'm going to go back to the point that compound interest is your best friend. So if you're saving and earning interest on top of it, your money's multiplying. It's growing.
Do you understand what compound interest is?
I do, but is it like a specific account? Like, is it just a regular savings account that does that?
The interest that you have gained, so your gain, that gain gets gain.
Yeah.
So you start making money on money that you never put in there. And it starts to snowball. But the only thing that causes compound interest is time. So the earlier you start, the more compounding you're going to be able to do.
So just keep money in there no matter what?
Absolutely.
Okay, cool. Well, thank you guys for joining us
Absolutely.
today.
Thank you for
It was
having us. I
really nice
appreciate
to meet
it.
y'all.
Absolutely.
Yeah, nice to meet
Thank you
very
so much. So once again, guys, just save your money. Even if it's 10%, 5%, whatever, just put it back. You millennials will get it popping. Thank you guys for joining us. GCTV, my name is Nick Black.